I wear no pants. I wear no pants. I wear no, I wear no, I wear no, wear no, wear no pants. Perhaps you like the...
You've found the writer's block. New worlds we all concoct. Where fiction has a page and playwrights have a stage. Where poetry's allowed, non-fiction draws a crowd. And even devs can check their articles on deck. Is English not your first? We help fix grammar's worst. And every week or so, we host a chit-chat show. With guests and topics too, informing scribes like you. What's optional? The pants. But manners, not a chance.
Non porto pantaloni.
Welcome to another episode of the Fictioneers podcast, brought to you by Discord on the Writer's Block Discord server. As always, I am Andrei-C, witness, aspiring author, and overworked and harried law school student. And we are also joined by Cubby Elizabeth, who's going to be listening in. She's one of our favorite Writer's Block denizens. She's not going to be chatting because she's going to be heading to the gym, but she is going to be listening in. And now that I've got Cubby introduced, let's go down the list and introduce everybody else who's going to be here for the show. I think it's off to you, Jess.
Me? Okay. Well, I'm J.R. Hughes on Steemit, and I'm an aspiring author also. That's why I'm here. And most of my other time is spent rehabbing my 150-year-old pile o' shit house.
I am Pegasus Physics here and on Steemit. I am a mod of the Playwright Workshop, an aspiring screenwriter, digital artist. Pegasus, I suppose. Who's next, Batman or Tiny? Probably Tiny.
Oh, my next. I'm sorry. I'm Tiny Paleo Kitchen on Steemit and Tiny for the rest of the world. And I'm an aspiring author as well.
Batman, are you here with us? I will take that as a no.
He's driving.
That's such a lame excuse. He's supposed to be Batman, right? We can't talk and drive at the same time. He doesn't have some bat gadget that's a hands-free headset. Unacceptable. But anyway, so here we are. This is episode 8, and I didn't really have anything planned for this evening, guys. What about you? Did you guys have any topics that you wanted to discuss and bring to the table? Aside from the fact that G-Mux's mother is actually, in fact, the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II, which probably makes him the Prince of Windsor or something. Duke of York? I don't know. Duke of York? Or is that Harry? Harry's the Duke of York.
Duke of Earl?
I wouldn't know.
There is a whole list of progressions of like different titles of nobility related to, you know, where on the line of succession you are. So
it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
they have it out
exactly.
to like thousands and thousands, like 16. Like this person is like 16,000 something in succession to the throne.
Yeah, everybody listening in from the United States may or may not remember from their civics class that there's like a line of succession from the president, vice president, Speaker of the House, and so on and so forth, down to like Secretary of Education or something, you know, the Postmaster General. But they have the same thing in England for the monarchy. I don't remember what it was. I've never studied it. I looked at it like a few times. But they have a line of succession, and apparently G-Mux is part of that line of succession. He's probably even first in line at this point. I don't know. I like Prince William, though.
Do you think people get like, I don't know, do you think anybody actually like throws that out at a party? Like, well, I'm 11,723rd in line to the throne.
Yes, I actually lived with a
Yeah.
girl when I went to college in
No.
Alabama who was like, I'm 60 something in line to be queen. And then when I went to visit her with her to visit her family, they had like they had their, what do you call it? The banner with the little animal and the colors. Thank
Coat
you.
of
They had
arms.
their coat of arms hanging on the wall.
Now,
Like, they were
now the
so
farther
proud.
too, but
now the farther away you get from being king and queen, obviously the less wealth that you have. But it still is a title of nobility. You are actually entitled to certain privileges
I don't
in
know if that's
England.
true. I don't know if it's related to wealth. There's plenty of those families that had like no damn money left.
Well,
Right.
that's
They
what I'm
weren't very
saying.
well.
That's what I'm saying. They may or may not have extravagant wealth, but they do have title to nobility. So they actually do have particular privileges reserved for the nobility class in the UK.
Yeah, I watched my Downton Abbey.
Too bad G-Mux isn't on here. The reason why G-Mux isn't on here is because he's getting ready to pack up his stuff and head out. I guess he was house sitting. But he's with us in spirit, and he's still fuming about the fact that we threw all the tea in the harbor, but that's okay.
We were trying to make the harbor taste good. They just don't understand.
Apparently, G-Mux has never considered the possibility that you can make tea with salt water, but I wouldn't expect anything less from
Ew.
a dirty, dirty Brit, so.
Oh my god.
Oh, goodness.
Being a little rough when he's
Hey,
not
we
here
kicked
to
their ass in
defend
World War
himself.
II, and we'll do it again. USA! USA!
Wait, what's
USA!
happening?
Oh my god, my daughter showed me this. I don't even know what this is. It's some YouTube channel called Dookie Shed.
Oh my God, no.
They apparently do like. Has anybody seen the Powerade or Power Thirst or whatever video? You know, like energy legs. I don't know. It's like a spoof on like
Yes,
Gatorade
and they
videos.
made one for
Okay.
Ranger School too, which was like one of our favorite
Okay.
things in the
Yes.
Army.
Well, it's very similar, but it's Pokemon and like talking about, and it's very foul mouth. Like it's, all kinds of language warnings, but they do one. I guess there's Braviary is like some patriotic looking eagle. And
Braviary, I like that.
she showed me this video, and like at one point it's like Teddy Roosevelt and Chuck Norris once flew on a Braviary to every planet to plant American flags. And I was dying. It was really, check it out, Dookie Shed. Worth it.
Totally worth it.
So worth it. But we do have something to talk about. We do have the winner of this past week's conflict prompt contest. And I just want to say
Oh, you had that
thank
finally?
you. Yes, I did. Thank you for noticing, Andre.
No, I just figured you'd stop doing it since it's been so long since you put one out.
Wow.
This is my default state of being, folks, by the way, if those of you who aren't like intimately familiar with me. This is how I am on average.
What, savage?
Day to day, savage, just
Obnoxious.
unbridled savagery.
Yeah, okay. Well,
I'm sorry. I apologize. I will grovel at your feet.
not necessary, but I do want to thank everybody who entered. I mean, we had 7 folks come up with something on incredibly short notice because even after delaying for weeks and weeks and weeks, I still took forever to get the post out. And I apologize profusely. And I just want to say thank you. I was so happy and impressed with, just the number of entries and the quality of the entries. They were all wonderful. And everyone's been so patient with me. Thank you so much. But we do have a winner. Can I get a drum roll? And it's John Knight. And that winner was not picked by me. It was picked by Batman. And the name of his piece is... Oops, I had it here. Hold on.
Wow, just
Heroes.
Okay.
It is Heroes. Settle down there, Andre.
I was going to give you praise for running what I think is one of the best writing contests that I've ever seen and had a chance to read pieces from. I mean, the entries have really been fantastic. But I apologize. I won't interrupt again. Go ahead.
That's like when my kid says mom for like the 40th time, and I'm like, what? And he's like, I was just going to tell you I love you.
Yes, that
I
feeling,
don't
that's the
believe it
same
for a
feeling that you should
minute.
have right now.
I don't believe it for a minute. I'm not a sucker. No, but it was Heroes by John Knight. And I did DM him earlier, but he also is fed up with me and didn't even get back to me. So he doesn't care. I will transfer the 20 SBD to him, but he didn't want to come on tonight and read his story.
At least
So
I care about you.
thank you.
I just don't like you. I mean, I care
Do you
about you, but I just don't
care?
like you.
Do you care enough to read the story though?
Yes, I don't have it in front of me, but if you can DM me the link, I'll pull it up and I'll read it.
I sure will.
Can
Talk
everybody
amongst
Can
yourselves.
everybody give Jessica a hand for being as awesome as she is? She does so much around here. I say that being 100% serious. I'm not being facetious at all. Jess is really one of the stars of Writer's Block, and she was a star in the Fiction Workshop, and she's been just absolutely fantastic.
Now I'm blushing.
To answer your question, Bex, John Knight was the person who won, and its story is Heroes, which I'll be reading as soon as I get a link from Jess to the story. Which I got to say, John Knight has been an excellent author, and I'm really proud of the work that he's done here with us.
Yeah, he's been an awesome addition to the workshop. And you should have that.
I do. I'm pulling it up right now, assuming Steam it will load, and then I will read it.
Yeah, so originally I was going to judge the contest. I've been doing the judging on these, and then I wanted to jump back in. I've been so lax in getting on and doing any crits or anything. And I went on and I did start critiquing a few. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I would get to the very end and people would be talking about how it was for the contest. I was like, well, shit. So I wound up just kind of putting out an invitation in the workshop to say, hey, if you want me to create your piece for the contest, I will. I messaged Batman and he was happy to save my bacon and do the judging this time around.
All right, so I got it here. Hang on just a second. All right, so I got it here, and I will go ahead and read it. So this is John Knight's story, Heroes. The captain crouched, a shadow among shadows. Critchit, you got your part? Critchit nods my direction. Keep eyes on the new guy. Don't let him die. You hear that, new guy? Critchit's going to keep you breathing. And what are you going to do? Nobody gets past me, sir. If the hero comes out the back, he's mine. That's what we call them, heroes. And they probably are to somebody. The door bursts open, spitting forth a man who runs straight at me. I see the knife, so I rise to fire. Not fast enough. The two of us tumble against the wall. He's on top of me, and I feel the knife go into my belly. It hurts, but there's no time for pain. Ignoring it, I grab his arms. I look up at the hero, see fear in his eyes. He's screaming in some foreign language. I kick up my body like they taught me in training. He loses balance, and the knife comes out. I kick up again, but he's ready. He's small but scrappy. His empty hand works free and punches me in the face twice before I can grab it again. I haven't hit him once. He stops struggling and drops forward. His forehead clunks against my nose. I hear it splinter and feel the pain. Blood fills my eyes. I roll hard to the left, then right, bucking my body against him, but his head comes down again. My lips break against my teeth. Blood is everywhere, all mine. I taste it. I smell it. I sense my death, and an unbridled fear rages into anger. All that matters is life. I will not die. I kick his back with my knees, bucking and working my arms. He rides me like a big brother rides a writhing child. The hero might have the upper hand, but I never give him the advantage. He drops the knife and brutally hits my face. Stunned, I stop struggling for a moment. His head comes down again, but I dodge to the side, rolling hard. He rolls with me, so I knee him in the groin. He forces the roll to continue, pinning me beneath him. He raises his head to bash mine again. I get ready to roll. Out of the blurry background, the butt end of Critchit's rifle comes down on his head with a distinct crack. He slumps onto me, spilling more blood over my face. Not mine this time. You okay, newbie? Critchit is a harsh shadow against the backdrop of stars. My nose is broken, my lips are split, and I have a small hole in my gut. But I don't notice. I stare at the man on the ground. Blood steadily drains from the gash on his head. Is he alive? Maybe. Critchit coughs up something and spits it on the body. Does it matter? Heroes die. That was solid. That was an excellent piece.
Very. Yes, it was really good. I read it in review, and he had originally had it in second person. And even then, I liked it, but I was not the only one, I think, who commented that the second person was not. It was just, hearing you do this, you do that. It just really takes you out of it. And having him move it into the first person, his choice to do that, I mean, just took it up several notches. It was really, really well done.
Absolutely. I didn't realize this was written in second person at first, but
Not
knowing
only
that,
that, not only that, but it was like over 1,000 words when he started.
oh wow. So he pared it all the way down.
Yes.
Honestly, I think it is much better this way. It has so much impact. Like every line means something. Every line hits somewhere.
I agree. That was pretty good. Um, as far as action scenes go, that was intense.
Yeah, it didn't let up at all. It's like I said, every single word, every line, every sentence was a strike. It was a blow. It was something happening in the present, and it was very well written. I am very impressed by the way that he directed the story.
I'm glad he decided to change it from second person. I don't think it would have had the same effect in second person. I didn't get to read it during them, but I did see people talking about that. And yeah, it would have had a different feel to it from that perspective.
Oh yeah,
Can
absolutely.
anybody hear me?
Yes, we
Oh,
can.
I had the honor of getting John's in the queue, and I think it's my fault that he finally got it out of second person. I just want to say he did an awesome job with that. I did a fly through edit with a dying battery and ripped it to shreds, and he just really pulled it off. So it's huge praise from me.
That's
That's
Bex, by the
awesome.
way.
That is awesome. Yes, that's Bex. We didn't introduce her because she just joined us right now, but Bex is one of our leading critiquers here in the writer's block, and she is absolutely phenomenal at her job. I think so.
Well,
Anyway, I don't
I
care what anybody else
agree.
thanks for
says.
saying it.
yes.
She gets people writing.
Well, there's a few people that have had to face the whip. I mean, Tiny helps with the whipping, but there was the notorious incident of the screwed up deadline on Carol's Cow contest, where two people had to write a week early, but they did really well. I mean, Andrew won.
Yeah, that's true. So okay, so we got this one as the winner, and once again, John Knight did a fantastic job, and thank you to everybody, Bex included, who helped critique his work and get it up to this level because this quality level is phenomenal. At least I
Yeah,
think so.
it really is.
What's next? What's the next prompt?
I don't know. I want to talk a little more about his still.
Okay, all right. I'm
I'll,
sorry, I'm getting ahead of
I'll
myself.
look
Go
it
on,
up in
go
a
on,
minute.
go on, go on.
No, I'll look it up in a minute. No, I feel like having had him pare it down from I can't get over that, half of his words were removed and yet it still has so much impact. And I have felt a little bit bad about the 500 word limit. But you never know how many submissions you're going to get. And it makes it so much easier to really give each piece the attention it deserves. Plus, I don't know. I feel like I am a very wordy writer, and having come into the workshop and had so many words stricken, and I feel like one of the most beneficial things I've had is writing to a low word count. I think it's been really good for clarifying my writing. And so I'm so impressed that he was able to do that. And I feel like it kind of cemented, my feeling that this was the right path to take, a very low word count. It's incredible what you can convey with the right words when they're well chosen and carefully picked.
That's actually one thing that's really helped me since I've been on Steam because I have the same sort of habit of being very, very wordy and writing very flowery prose if I get ahead of myself. But a lot of the short story competitions that I came into here and the short story and flash fiction collaborations that I've been a part of have taught me to try and pare down my words to where, make every word count. It's just like with shooting. Make every shot count, make every word count.
I think a good thing he did is starting in the right place. It's one thing that's pushed in screenwriting is start as close to the heart of the action of the scene as you possibly can, and that really helps when you have only so much space to tell your story. So him starting right there when that incident occurs, it still keeps it a nice narrative story, so to speak. I guess I'm running out of words, but it it feels complete, and you're right there in the action. I don't know, it just gets you right into the heart of it.
Wait, so it's not a screenwriting technique and it's not considered good screenwriting to have like 15 minutes of exposition? Because it seems like that's a common thing that happens on film nowadays.
I don't know why that's a common thing. I think people have this idea that there should be tons and tons of dialogue because in a script there's dialogue, when really we want to see stuff happen. So, like, you could talk while it's happening. I don't know. Yeah, you're right.
Exposition.
I wish I could find the quote. I never can, but I read years and years and years ago a quote by Alfred Hitchcock who said something like, if an English film opens with a shot of clouds, it can then pan to the outside of an airplane, and it can maybe focus in on the wing, maybe a window, a propeller. He said in an American film, if you open with a shot of clouds, the next thing you see needs to be the airplane. And if the next thing you see isn't the airplane blowing up, you've lost your audience.
Yes, yes, we're all uncultured Americans. I understand.
For
If I
me,
can make a
oh, go ahead, Bex.
from the other side of it with the 500 word count, I really feel like it's been upping our game as editors, those of us that are working on the queue. I've only been on the queue side of it. I haven't had the chance to write for these contests because I just haven't had the time. But I feel like it's really making us up our game as editors to cut those extra words, to find just those few things where you can cut a word here and a word there. It's a good challenge on both sides, whether you're on the editor side or the writer side. I really think that 500 word count is upping everybody's game, whether it's the one side or the other.
Totally.
Word economy is something that we talked about numerous times, and we've mentioned it I don't know how many times inside the workshop, but it really does make a difference, and it separates very long-winded writing from very impactful and engaging writing, especially when it comes to action scenes.
Well, and I think that when we're editing to make things shorter like that, we kind of absorb that. I feel like I learned a lot by editing other people's things. Like I notice them now, but more in my own after having edited other people's.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, I do have our next conflict prompt, which I will post tonight from my local pizza place because they
Oh
gave me the
man.
internet password because they love me. It is person versus society, and I am so excited. I don't want to judge because I want to write one for this.
So
And
do I.
Andre, you have to come through on this one. We need some
I
great,
I will
awesome,
gladly set aside my homework to write a piece for this. I will. I promise. That is a promise. You can hold me to it.
fantastic. I'm excited. So I'm going to post this here in the chat. This is what our next prompt will be. Something like Fahrenheit 451 or 1984, according to the source I'm quoting.
I like how the only two examples you can provide are either rejecting a corrupt society or succumbing to it, and you don't have one for like triumphing over it.
There are not a lot of triumphant ones.
Maybe it's because we're all fatalists and we're like, this is never going to work. We're all just going to die miserable and alone in the dark.
I'm trying to think. I'll have to ask Renee. Actually, my best friend's college thesis was um, it was language in specifically young adult dystopian fiction. Her minor was in linguistics, and it was so much fun to edit when she was writing it. Oh my God, proofreading and stuff. I just loved it. I'm such a geek, but she was writing about all different stuff, specifically the way language is used by the oppressors and then how it's recaptured by the oppressed in different dystopian societies and fiction. But I'll have to ask her if she can think of anywhere where the person triumphed. Because, like, the first one I would try to think of is Hunger Games, but really, they don't.
What about I can only think of them in film, but Pleasantville comes to mind, sorta. I don't know if anyone remembers that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Actually,
I don't
yeah.
know
Yeah.
if you've seen the show The 100. It's kind of like Lord of the Flies, only I don't want to give it away if anyone's watching it and hadn't seen the end, but has been kind of a triumph from the original characters who were disposed of. So I guess it counts, but that one's complex. That's a TV show.
Oh, now I have to dig up. Holy crap. So, y'all know that they're remaking Lord of the Flies with an all female cast,
I've
right?
heard about it, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, God. I don't know what magazine ran it, but there was this hilarious, um, it was like supposedly excerpts from the new script, and it was all these, teenage girls on this island. They're all like 12, 13, or 9, 10, some of them. And everywhere it was like quotes from the book, but changed to women. And I don't want to ruin it. I'm going to find it and I'm going to post it in chat because it's awesome. And maybe I can read some excerpts because it was great.
I'm hoping that it turns out to be as good as you suspect that it's going to be. Because
You probably
I have,
won't like it because you're not a girl, but girls are going to like it. So there.
I'm worried. Because a
gonna
lot
love
of girl versions of things have flopped. So it
Oh,
depends.
yeah.
It depends who's making it. I'm reserving any judgment until I see it.
My issue with it is basically just summed up as this: girls and boys deal with trauma and stressful situations in different ways, and I don't know whether the impact of the original story of the Lord of the Flies will work the same way with girls as it will with boys. I don't mean to say that because, one's better than the other, but a lot of that viciousness and a lot of that like sort of visceral kind of imagery and sense of, the society that they create, I think speaks a lot to the way that boys deal with issues and problems as opposed to the way girls do.
Japan has taught me that there's a lot of overlap as far as the viciousness. I think it doesn't really matter the gender.
I disagree.
You can get anything from compassion to evil, regardless. Because I mean, there are stories where there are mean girls in Japan. They're not quite like mean girls that you get where they're like, "Oh, your dress is ugly." They're more like the mean girls that will lure another girl into a classroom and stab her to death. So
Well,
when
okay,
things like
to
that
be
happen
fair,
in real life,
okay,
you
no,
never
to
know.
be fair, Japan exists within its own like microcosm. So
Right.
yes, this is
But
true. I do not think Japan speaks for the whole of the world.
no, I'm not saying
Okay.
that they do. I'm just saying that when you have things like that exist, something happened that caused that to exist. And so in a story like Lord of the Flies, it's hard to say what would or would not happen based solely on gender or based on what our societal, like our own sociological view is on gender. Because what I drew a comparison between Mean Girls here and Mean Girls there. Our Mean Girls are not that mean, although there have been some that have been, it's one of those things where it's like there's exceptions to every rule. So who knows how it could go in a Lord of the Flies type setting. I'm sorry, Bex, what did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, I don't think you guys have been picked on by the right girls. Obviously, if you think
Right.
girls can't be that mean and that kind of mean, because I mean, I'm not talking. I don't come from a poor environment. I come from a middle class environment, and yeah, there were girls I definitely wouldn't want to be alone in the bathroom with where I went to school.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's a different dynamic between boys than there are with girls. Girl relationship dynamics between each other is different than boys, and a lot of that has to do with the sociological structure and the gender structure of whatever society they inhabit. Now, I mentioned Japan being a microcosm. I was being kind of facetious, but really, in a lot of ways, Japan kind of is set apart from most of the rest of the world. They have their own very, very unique and rigid structure. So, well, I mean, it's again, it's going to depend on how the script is written and what
Exactly.
the
It's
characters are. But that's why I hope that it translates well, and we'll see.
Yeah, that's why I was like, it's hard to say. It depends on where they come from with it, what kind of culture they decide to use. Because just as Japan is its own microcosm, so is the U.S. If you think about it, like our culture, this like very minute, nuanced things that play into how a person grows, becomes, reacts to things. It's different from place to place. Like even from English speaking countries where we're speaking the same language but some of our slang differs, that even plays into a mindset, a level of politeness, the way we develop interactions. Like in the US, it's it's changing because the way our culture is changing. Things are becoming more acceptable as far as how two males interact with one another. Like a couple decades ago, two guys holding hands, those two guys might get beaten up. Today it might be a joke, they might be in a relationship, people probably don't care anymore. In Europe, never been a problem. There are some other countries like India, that is as common a thing as a brother and a sister holding hands, or a mother and a daughter holding hands. So, something as simple as holding hands being seen so many different ways. It
Wait,
just depends.
mothers and daughters hold hands places? What kind of gay ass shit is that?
I don't know that. I don't think I've ever seen. Man, I'm thinking like a mother and a daughter where the daughter is like 6
I'm kidding.
and they're out in public.
I'm kidding. My daughter's 10, like, I don't know, maybe 8 months ago. She never from the time she stopped nursing, she never wanted to like co-sleep with me. She wanted her own bed. So when she was like by the time she was a toddler, she was in her own bed. Like 8 months ago, she just suddenly wanted to like sleep in my room with me like every night for like months. And it was great. It was so nice. She's a sweetheart. Now she wants her own place again. They just it depends on the people.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well,
I was gonna say maybe a scary movie happened.
can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Hey.
Welcome.
It's Rhonda.
I'll just happily croak along. I still don't have my voice back after all these weeks.
That's
Um,
fine. We won't hold that against you.
I'm really glad, thank you. Um, I don't know if it's more than male and female from my perspective, um, as it is the exposures that children have when they're very small to um, vulnerable things. And this is one of the core basis of the rescue that I run with the animals. And this is what I keep trying to get my community to understand, is that this is a social issue. It's not about animal abuse so much as it is when you raise up children from a very early age to be vicious and cruel or negligent to dispose of animals. They're going to have those attitudes toward the vulnerable people. When they get older, and you're creating many times a society of bullies and of violent people. Now, I'm not talking about hunting and that sort of thing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a total irreverence for the lives of vulnerable creatures. In my experience, as the child grows older, you're going to see that in the way they relate to their own children and to the older people who are kind of helpless.
Well, and I think it's funny because on Andre's other show, we kind of were talking a lot about kids and the way that children are treated makes a difference. I had someone, a coworker, say to me the other day. He's like a really good, close coworker of mine, and he said something about his sister was telling him about this stuff that's going on with her kid in school, and he said, "And I know like guys aren't supposed to cry, but man, I like wanted to cry when she was telling me what's happening." And it just hurt my heart. I was like, why aren't guys supposed to cry? That's silly. Like, if things are sad, you should be able to cry and nobody should call you a pussy for it, and people should just be respected. And I think that if we raised our children with more respect for them and for themselves, and treated them with more respect, and also treated things that are weaker, like you're saying, because our children are weak and vulnerable as well, that we would have better people when they were grown ups.
I think you're right. I mean, I agree with you on that. And, that's why I get so um, frustrated when I try to have a conversation with people who dismiss what I do with the animals or dismiss the urgency of teaching people to respect life. Because always it's going to translate in some way into how they deal with humans. And what they're exposed to, what boys or girls are exposed to at that very young age, and what they see, it has a huge impact.
I agree. I totally agree that what children are exposed to does have an enormous, tremendous effect on the kind of people they grow up to be.
The area where I live in Appalachia, there's a study somewhere online, and I have it somewhere. I've been unable to put my hands on it recently, but it's from the University of North Carolina, and it shows that this particular demographic has a higher population in nursing homes of elderly people than anywhere. We have like 10% of the nation's nursing home population within a 100-mile radius of me. And some of the people, when I was working in EMS, some of the people in these nursing homes, they're not medically required to be there. They're just, they're older people who could be cared for at home. And the families didn't. They chose instead to let Medicare, pay for their nursing home. And then you also go back, and what I make a comparison, I call it the nursing home theory. In this region, it's still extremely common for people to have litters of puppies and kittens and put them and dump them in the creek, or, take the boys out and use them for target practice. We have a litter of 10 puppies. Let's take them down to the woods and we can just use those for target practice. I've seen this. I've seen the bodies and the shell casings and the dead animals out in the woods. And I've seen this a couple of times, and he took his boys out there and they did target practice because they didn't want the puppies. Well, if you teach your children that if it's an inconvenience, that you just dispose of it in some way, what does that parent think is going to happen to them when they are peeing down their leg and become an inconvenience to the child that they just taught to throw things away?
Well, I mean,
And I think there's a, yeah,
Well, I was gonna
I
say,
think there's a direct correlation.
aren't we supposed to get rid of old people when they're old? Just take them out back and put one between the eyes, put them out of their misery.
They're not really
Yeah.
that good for target practice, Andre. They're so fucking slow.
Well, I'm not talking about moving target. You don't have to have a moving target. You just set it out there, staple them to a post, and there you go. You're good to go.
They don't even zigzag.
But,
Sniping practice, I suppose. Good
You
grief.
haven't seen some of the old people I've seen. Some of these old people can zigzag just fine. I promise.
That is if you can keep them standing for long.
This is so dark.
This took a turn, and it was all my fault.
Sorry, I enjoy black dark humor. I really do.
I thought it was Shane's fault.
No, I have taken it upon myself to not just blame Shane when things are my fault. Like the other night's podcast. That was definitely my fault.
Indeed,
Well.
I agree.
Oh, good for you. You suddenly have a voice.
Well, I will say this. I never, I was one of those, tomboys that always hung out with the guys. I never really got on with girls. But when I was put in boot camp with 65 other females and no males around, it was the first time I ever really had an appreciation for the camaraderie that can exist among women. And I think that, not to get on like a feminist soapbox, but I do feel there is maybe a little exaggeration about how awful women are to one another. It's almost like we're expected to be perpetually in competition with one another. And there's all these evolutionary explanations that, like, well, we need a man to stay around and support us. So, we're always in competition for the men.
Well, I mean,
But
to be fair, during boot camp, he didn't have any guys around to compete over, so.
well, yeah, we totally did. I mean, there were definitely males around. We just weren't living with them. But no, I mean, I have since enjoyed many very rich friendships and been parts of groups of women that I was very happy in those relationships. Whereas I think that and this is something that, I think college movies frequently play up to. In the sorority, it's always all the girls are like total bitches, but in the fraternity, all the guys are like really have each other's backs. They're bros. It's just a weird thing. But I do think that what Rhonda brought up, the way that we treat the vulnerable among us, and the way our children witness that and receive that treatment does make a big difference. And I have a quote from the New Yorker article that prompted all of this with The Lord of the Flies that I think you'll appreciate, Andre, because it will also speak not just to like the woman thing, but think of it from the perspective of how ridiculous it is just with your political philosophy. I think that you'll like this. So this is from an article the New Yorker wrote. It's excerpts from the all-girl remake of Lord of the Flies, and it's a joke thing they do.
I think I know exactly which one you're talking about.
I bet you do. Okay. One thing we should establish right away, said Ralphie, are the rules. Rule number 1, no murder. At this, the girls broke into a chorus of laughter. Murder? Asked Erica. Literally, the only thing we're trying to do on this island is not die. Why? But Sam couldn't finish her sentence. She was laughing too hard. Why would we murder anyone? Her twin finished. Peals of laughter rang out from the beach and carried across the water. Stop, yelped Ralphie. Stop. I'm seriously going to pee myself. Jackie wiped tears from her eyes. Oh my God, she said. I needed this. Later, when the girls were ragged and hungry, all any of them had to say to cheer the group up was murder, and that would set them all off giggling again.
That sounds like something I'd laugh about.
Right. But when I read that initially, I thought it was pretty funny because that's kind of the idea that people have, that sort of Hobbesian, like without rules, like everybody would murder and cannibalize one another.
Yeah, that one's never made sense to me. Like, those purge movies where they're like, for one day, it's completely legal to murder everybody. And for some reason, I feel like in real life, you'd wind up with like maybe 3 or 4 actual murders that happened because it was legal.
Yeah, exactly.
And everybody else would just see it as another normal day. Like, okay, that's a weird thing that you're doing. See you on Pancake Day.
Right. I think like half of the killings that occur would just be people like me defending themselves when someone showed up at their door.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I think there would be a much greater incidence of like violence, but most of the killing would be in self-defense. Assuming,
Right.
of course, in that situation that self-defense is not outlawed like it is now, but
Right.
Now, if they made it legal to take things from stores, like if they decided for one day looting was legal, I feel like there'd be an increase in that because I would show up at Walmart and take all kinds of things.
That's
if
something I
it's
never
legal.
understood about The Purge is you never see any scenes where people are doing other criminal activity. It's only
Right.
murder. People are only going out to kill people. If all crime was legal, you know what I'd be doing? I wouldn't actually be doing anything because I respect private property. But in theory, I would be going out and ransacking stores and shit. Like, all right, I got a whole bunch of stuff now that I didn't have before.
A car, new TV, a little bit of furniture, maybe some new clothes.
Stuff
Just
to resell so
nothing
I can
from
buy
like
more
small
Steam.
business. Only from big businesses that have insurance and who've insured such a situation.
See, I would just rob banks because
Oh, that works too.
Well, they would be fortified, so I don't think that would work.
I don't think that there's anything wrong with robbing banks.
Why?
It's just
I mean,
numbers.
I don't, but well, exactly. It's just numbers. You're not actually taking anybody's actual freaking money.
That's actually not true.
We can argue about it later. We'll
Now, if
argue
you
about
do,
it this week.
Just leave the safe deposit boxes.
Oh yeah. No, like people's stuff. That's different.
Noble thief.
But people's money, that's perfectly acceptable.
No, you don't do people's bank accounts. You steal from, like, I don't know, Kim Kardashian. I'm
But
sure they
that's
have it
That I wouldn't have
insured.
a problem with. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all.
Like,
So
anybody whose net worth is in the billions, I'm sure they could take a hit of like a couple 100,000 or a few million.
So when are we planning this heist now? You know, I need.
We'll talk about it when we go off air.
I don't
Okay.
qualify it by income level. I qualify it by the general scummery of the person.
That could work too.
Because, like, if there's a child rapist out there who has, like, a meager little apartment and he doesn't have he hardly has anything, oh, I'll definitely rob the hell out of that guy and probably beat the crap out of him, too, on the way out.
I'm with you on that. Take everything and what he's wearing.
This probably went way too serious for the kind of show that we're supposed to be having. I'm sorry.
How about this?
Well, we were
How about we
talking
hear
Lord
about
of the Flies?
I was gonna say we could hear about the prompt Rhonda recently posted about the Mandela Effect short story prompt.
Oh my god, I love the Mandela
Yes,
effect.
go on.
Well, that it's really the whole thing is messing with my head because I mean some of those things that they're saying that didn't exist, I have clear memories of them, and my daughter has the same memories that I do of what the box of the video looked like for Shazam, you know. And, you know, I think she owned that movie, and now they're saying it never existed. Wait a minute. And the latest thing for me is learning that South America is east of the U.S. rather than south of us.
Yes.
That can't be right.
It's messed up. Australia is higher than it's supposed to be. Svalbard exists. And I remember learning about this place called Svalbard in the book called The Golden Compass. And I wanted to go, and I went to the library and I looked it up and found out that there was no such place. It was completely fictional. The author made it up, and I was so disappointed. And then recently I found out it exists, and narwhals, these little dolphins with horns, so unicorn dolphins, they exist. And I'm like, wait, what is happening?
Yeah. I mean, I can't. So, I mean, I've really been stumbling over this, and I think what really made it bad was a few nights ago, I was talking with Carol and DMs, and we were talking about some pretty sensitive stuff that's going on with her. And I looked, and my whole DMs were gone. Everything that we had talked about for the past 10 minutes was just gone. And I started saying, Carol, where did the DMs go? And she didn't even know what I was talking about. I mean, it's like the conversation really seriously never happened. Yet when she started again retelling the story, I knew what she was telling me because she'd already told me once. It just didn't, it's like we went to rewind and the whole thing disappeared. And I don't really know what happened there because Carol and I both we can get off in left field somewhere. We're not the most, you should hear some of our conversations. But anyway, the thing is that the DMs just disappeared in front of my eyes. And I know that could be I understand that could be a techno glitch, but the fact that Carol didn't realize they had disappeared and didn't even know what I was talking about, neither me or her are that crazy. Okay. I mean, we're not
this
that
is a
far
common
gone
thing,
yet.
Rhonda. I have to tell you, I have to cut in on you and tell you, because you are not the only person who has told a story exactly like that. I'm following this Mandela Effect thing on YouTube. There are a couple channels where they just do podcasts now, where they get together and talk about it, because it's gone beyond the point of seeing all these different things to where they want to know, okay, what's happening? Why? What do we have in common? And a really common story that happens is people having conversations, either email, text message, Discord DMs, and those conversations just vanishing, or the other person on the other side has a completely different conversation, and they actually take screenshots and compare the non-matching conversations with the exact same times, and it'll have like their side or some of it, and then it'll change halfway through and then go back to normal, and they're completely confused about this middle part of this conversation, and they make an entire video about it. It's the weirdest thing, and it all seems to tie in. That's why I love this story prompt. I have to write something for it.
I
Yeah,
have to
well.
write something too, because this lines up very nicely with science fiction, which is one of my favorite genres to write for. And one of the possible explanations for those of you that aren't aware, the Mandela effect is where people remember something that either didn't happen or happened completely different from the way it was remembered. And one explanation that's been posited is that it's parallel universes that are spilling into our own somehow.
Well, they better stop with that Hadron Collider, and they better stop with
Yeah, it's all CERN's fault.
something happened. So
Damn scientists.
they're messing with something. I'm telling you, it's just crazy. And I mean, I was okay with it, just like Pegasus is saying, I was okay with it until that happened, and now I'm not really okay with it anymore. That was freaky.
Yeah, that's all kind of, I'm with you though, Andre. That's my favorite theory, is that something is going on and like universes have bumped into each other and we're just experiencing side effects. That, because I've heard so many theories, but that's got to be my favorite. CERN is a good theory. I actually think it might be a combination of everybody's theory. Like any theory that exists about it, I feel like they're all combinations. Because that would make the most sense in the spectrum of how life works. Like it's, oh yeah, this happened because of that one theory, but these happened because of that theory. And somehow we've all landed on the same thing and we're causing similar results for some reason. I don't know. It's bizarre.
Well,
It's
the universe is actually just an ancestor simulation being run by advanced humans with a computer the size of the moon. So
That works
it's
too.
just glitches in the Matrix, man.
That
Wait,
works
you
too.
believe in the moon?
You believe in people?
Get woke, Andre.
Oh, I am so woke.
Stop. Oh goodness. I didn't mean you actually had to stop.
Well, I posted a Mandela effect video, probably a little bit of language warning, but my 15-year-old showed me this and I died. It was great.
I'll have to check it out after the show.
I like that the conclusive proof in one case is the Shazam video, the video cassette.
Well, the day after he showed me this video on my way to work, I noticed for the first time that there's a side road on my way to where our courthouse is, and it's named Kazam, Kazzam, and I about died.
Oh, that's something right there. That's like a message specifically to you.
Yes.
It's what we call synchronicity.
Mm-hmm.
There's an actual name for it. Bader-Meinhof? The Bader-Meinhof theory, I think, or the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. It's when you learn about something new and then you start seeing it everywhere. And it's because you'd never taken notice of it before, but you start making all of these bizarre connections once you learn about it.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
I was once Bader-Meinhofed with the Bader-Meinhof because when I found out what the Bader-Meinhof was, like the very next day, someone posted about it in an internet forum I was in, and I was like, holy shit, Bader-Meinhofception.
You were Bader-Meinhof by a Bader-Meinhof.
Yup.
That was so that you could remember it well enough to tell us.
There's all a greater plan, man. There's all a greater purpose.
Yeah, man.
It's the lizard
my
aliens from the
gosh.
Hollow Earth, man. They're turning the frogs gay.
Oh, jeez. Do you want gay frogs? Because that's how you get gay frogs.
Lizard people from Zeta Reticulon I.
Once you have gay frogs, it'll be frogs marrying. It was frogs that he went to when he was talking about people. Not sure where to go with it.
All right, I think we've gone like way off the deep end in this
We
conversation.
have.
This has nothing to do with writing, not even close.
But it did start with a writing prompt contest.
Yes, the Mandela effect.
It did. This is true.
We can't have any coffee talk, I guess. Fine.
No, we cannot because I don't have coffee.
I don't
If you
either,
wanna
come to think of it.
if you want to act like that, you better show up with a real whip next time.
Oh my.
Well,
Somebody's
I am
taking
going to
some.
enter the Mandela effect prompt. I think that I will do that to make up for not being able to enter the person versus society prompt.
Oh, yay. I'm glad to hear that. That's awesome.
Will you enter person versus society, Rhonda?
You know, all I'd have to do is write a story about my current life. Yeah, I sure
There you
will.
go.
Don't know if I can. I was going to talk to Pegasus via DM, but I mean, I don't know. May I discuss a little bit what's going on here? The most recent thing with my town?
Yeah, go ahead. We're
Please
we're
do.
always here to listen to what's going on in your life, Rhonda. You are the lifeblood. You're the glue that holds this place together.
Well, not that so much is that I'm sort of wondering how if Steemit could play a role in this because they did, people came together and stumped a mud hole in Cedar Bluff over the chicken thing. And this is much bigger. This is potential civil rights and some ethics stuff, but there's a store that has opened in the town of Richlands, which is in Tazewell County, and it's a magic store. And the guy that runs it, he sells books and he sells magic items and tarot cards, and apparently he was going to do tarot card readings. Well, the town has band together now and they've had a big town hall meeting, and it's been on the front page of the newspapers where all of these citizens are coming together and saying that he cannot have the store here because we're not going to have tarot card readings within the town of Richlands. And so the police department, who is in charge something with the zoning, they've they've issued a cease and desist something where he can not only not charge for tarot readings, but he can't do them at all. They can't perform them even for free on his property, under the business license that he has in the town of Richlands. And so it's becoming a thing. And it seems that the majority of people would really rather not have the business. And so I am quite concerned on several levels with, is the mountain mafia going to get away with this too? Are they going to tell people that they can't operate a perfectly legal business?
Rhonda, you're talking about legalities and they're trying to protect you from the fucking devil, okay? I mean, what next? Gay frogs?
uh, Good one. Good one. Yes.
The one question I'd like to ask is when you say it was a town council meeting, are you talking about like there was the majority of the people that lived in the town that were represented there or showed up to talk about this, or was it just like a handful of people who are the usual suspects in this kind of a situation, or what happened?
I wasn't at the town meeting, but apparently they were packed with several hundred people who were opposing this business and asking the town council to shut them down. And this made the front page of the newspaper.
How many people live in that town?
I'm not really sure. Probably, I would say 15 to 20,000 in Richlands.
Okay. I was fixing to say, I mean, if there's a large group of, if it's your community and you and the rest of the people living in your community don't want a business there, while I don't agree with using the town council, I do think that they have certainly the right to, if not the ability to, tell them no, we don't want you here.
But the guy already bought property and has a permit, I thought.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't agree with using the city government to keep him from doing what he's allowed to be doing. Now, the next question becomes, what does that license allow him to do, and what does that license give him the right, rather, I should say, the legal privilege to do?
Well, I just don't see why they have any right, no matter, I don't care if 99% of them don't want him to exercise his business on his own property, then I don't see why they should be able to like use the law to chase him out. If they don't want to go to him, they don't need to go to him. Nobody's forcing them to go get their tarot read. And if they weren't afraid that there were plenty of people who did want to go get their tarot read, they wouldn't feel the need to have such an uproar, would they?
Well, yeah, that's essentially what I'm saying. I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so what is it that they're keeping him from doing? Is it something that's already in his license that they then revoked after giving him the license? Because I mean, a business license is a business license. It's an instrument of the whatever government is in charge of operating the business licensure program. So that's really what it's going to come down to.
My understanding is that, and I'm in the process of trying to learn more. It's very difficult to get information here. But anyway, my understanding is that the town has told him that he cannot sell or charge or do tarot readings under the business license that he holds to operate the magic store. Yet, equally the same, my understanding is that there is no language anywhere in the town code about tarot readings being prohibited.
Oh, okay,
They basically just made it up.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, they're just making it up and they can go pound sand. Well, I mean, I'll be happy to re-steam anything that you post about it, or I can write my own post about it if you can give me some place where I can get some more information about it and include it in there.
Oh, Rhonda, write your man versus society about it and let him like cast an evil magic spell on the whole friggin' stupid town.
Yeah, seriously, this was exactly what brought it up. Is I'm thinking seriously about doing something just exactly like that.
That'll be fantastic.
That would be. I'd read it.
When's the deadline on that?
It'll be next Tuesday, or well, it'll be next Monday at noon.
Eeks. Okay, I have to get really busy on this.
Or
Oh my.
we could do 2 weeks. Maybe we should do that. Do 2 weeks because a lot of people like to have their stuff reviewed. And I'll just put in, to be sure that nobody posts anything before, I think Thursday of the week before it's judged would be good because I want people to still have some time on their posts when we pick a winner.
That'll give people a chance to deal with Halloween if they have to as well.
Oh, yeah.
Well, anything on that, Rhonda, I'll support that too, because that's crazy. I feel like every year there's always some story about somebody who does tarot cards or, something of that nature, has a little magic store, because we have one here too. One. It's the only one that exists because it's allowed and that's it. And there's always something, and it just, I don't know. It's like that old feeling from the Salem witch trials, which have been conflated with other things that happen and things that didn't. It's like it doesn't go away, and I don't understand why.
It's just so dumb. He should just say that he's practicing his religion and they can't do anything about it.
Normally you get by saying it's for entertainment purposes, and most people leave it alone at that point. So I don't. Maybe somebody doesn't like him specifically, like personally.
No, it's it's the mountain mafia. This is the way they do things. There was a tattoo parlor. It was called Perforated Soul that was here a couple of years ago that he tried to get started, and they sort of did the same thing to him, just on a less public scale. I didn't even hear about it until it was over, but they made it where he could not operate a tattoo parlor within the town of Richlands also.
So they just don't really want to be a town? Is that what's happening? Because you need businesses.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Yeah, it's nuts. It's really nuts. It's way complicated, but pretty much they try to entice businesses to come into the area, and yet when the businesses want to come into the area, like Caterpillar did, they told Caterpillar that they could not put a plant in their new Bluestone Park because it would have metal-sided buildings, and the Caterpillar tractors would look ugly sitting out there out front, and that's not what they wanted.
Well, they can't have it both ways. Come on now.
Right.
Jesus.
It's like, why not just stick a dome over their own little piece of land and just call it theirs and just be like, this is our club and no one can come in. And then everyone else can just leave and they can have their little pocket club. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, totally fine if that's what they want to do. Knock themselves out, but then don't or if you're gonna do that, then don't complain that there's no businesses coming to your area.
Right.
Like, hot shit, you can't have
Yep.
your cake and eat it too. It doesn't work that way.
That's right.
I have an idea that I kind of wanted to swing past, sort of the old standbys in the workshop, but so many of them are here. There is a pop culture conference in Albuquerque, and it's a pretty big academic conference, and they put out a call for papers, and it's a good conference because even though there's like some really highfalutin academia stuff going on, they also do, I mean, everything from panels on supernatural to, uh, Cormac McCarthy and things like that. But they have a fiction, they have a call for submissions on fiction. And my friend who's doing a submission on dystopian language is begging me to submit something. And I was wondering if we might not work something up that might be, you can submit a fiction piece, but also talk about, any topic really. And I was thinking maybe presenting on how the internet and in particular Steemit is changing the way fiction authors can be rewarded monetarily for their work. And we might be able to pick up some connections there.
Yes.
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 Just a
Okay.
resounding yes.
All right. Well, I will slap something together I'll put it in the workshop for people to look at and we'll talk about it, maybe get together and discuss it. The submission has to be in by November 15th. So I think that's plenty of time. And that's all I've got, people.
Well, fair enough. That was a good bit. I'm actually really excited for November now because I'm curious to see where that goes, and I'd like to be part of that and push for it. Anything that gets more writers to Steam it and that gets us more exposure is never a bad thing.
Yeah, and we need to get Muxie all fixed up with business cards and stuff for Steamfest too.
Yes,
I was
we
thinking
do.
about that.
We need like a solid logo, I think. I like our GIF that we use, the one that I'm streaming right now and the one that's in the recordings. But we need something logo-wise.
Yeah, it needs to be a block for sure.
Yep.
Something punny with a block.
We wear
I don't
no
know.
pants.
Something. Carol does not like that.
No,
really? She doesn't?
I mean, I understand where she's coming from on that. It's been done, and I guess that's why she doesn't like it. Yeah.
Oh, I know, but that's been our shtick for forever, though.
Yeah, she wrote a whole thing. I wish I could. It's somewhere buried in the chat on one of these places, but she wrote a whole thing about it. You'll have to ask her.
Wait, what? Who? What
to
did
tell
I
you.
miss?
Carol had some comments about the no pants thing that were quite amusing.
Oh.
And I guess Andre missed them. They were somewhere in the chat. It was like a wall, one of her Carol walls. It was funny.
Carol walls. Well, I mean,
how long ago was it?
I'm kind
a few days, I think.
Yeah, last week sometime. Yeah, I think so. I mean, and I'm kind of with that as far as like that's not what we want to show people at Steamfest.
No,
I agree. But it's fun, for the radio show. We do have some fun with that.
Well, we can keep it for the radio show then. How about that?
Yeah.
Our intro's too good to get rid of anyway, so I'm not going to change it.
Absolutely.
That stinking thing gets stuck in my head in different languages, so thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. And thanks to Stu, the guy that the lead singer of the Poxy Boggards, for coming up with the song. And there's my plug for him, and it'll be on the show notes page as well. But thanks to that guy
All
for
right.
letting me use it.
Well, folks, it's been about an hour, and I am going to get out of here because I do need to go feed my family.
I can get behind that. I actually don't have a family to feed right now, but we can go ahead and wrap up the show. Is there anything else? Any final words that anybody else wants to say? No?
Nope. We've said it all.
Everything that must have been said has been said. All right. Well, in that case, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. It's been a great show as always. It's my pleasure to hang out with you guys. But for those of you listening, you can catch our show again next week from 5 to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 6 to 7 Eastern Standard Time, and we'll catch you guys again then. And as always, pants are optional. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye.
Bye.